At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in-store, online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
Welcome to the Sports Moment from the Washington Post, your ticket to the Summer Olympics. It is Wednesday, August 7th, and I'm Ava Wallace, a sports reporter here in Paris. Today, I've got an interview with Lauren Scruggs, who made history last week by becoming the first Black American woman to win an individual fencing medal at the Olympics. But first, let's do the medal table. Here's the gold medal count as of 9 a.m. in Paris. The United States is first in both gold and in the overall medal count, with 24 golds and 86 medals overall. China is second with 22 gold medals, and Australia is in third with 14 gold medals. And here are some stories quickly that we want to catch you up on from yesterday. The American sprinter Gabby Thomas won the women's 200-meter race yesterday. This was Gabby's first gold medal at the Olympics. It was an incredible race. Her celebration afterward was so emotional. The U.S. women's soccer team also advanced to the gold medal game for the first time in 12 years when Sophia Smith scored yet another late goal for the USWNT. That was in the 95th minute. And the U.S. is going to play Brazil on Saturday for the top spot. The female boxer Iman Khalif from Algeria also won her semifinal match. It was the latest victory for Khalif, who has been repeatedly accused here in Paris without evidence of having XY chromosomes, which are typically found in males. Khalif will now face China's Liu Yang in the gold medal match. So I am not the biggest follower of fencing. I guess I would say I'm not a follower of fencing at all. But last week, there was this match that caught my attention. It was the semifinal match between the American Lauren Scruggs and Italy's Arianna Arrigo in women's individual foil. I can't play tape of the match, unfortunately, but you should definitely go watch it. It was such a tense match. It came down to the final point when Scruggs finally won it. On a replay, by the way, she absolutely exploded. Arrigo fell to her knees and shrieked, looking up towards the heavens. Scruggs ripped off her mask and started screaming in celebration. She went over to her family, went over to her teammates, was pumping them up. I just wasn't expecting to see such an outburst of emotion in what I thought was a pretty stuffy sport. Scruggs went on to take silver in that event to become the first Black American woman to win an individual fencing medal. A few days later, she won a second medal, a gold this time, in the women's team event. But that silver really resonated with me, and it was such a huge moment for Scruggs and her family.
I think they were just astounded by, what I did that day. My mom was just bawling her eyes out. My brother, too.
That's Lauren. We talked yesterday in between a job interview she actually had scheduled, and we met near the Athletes Village where she's staying. Who's here from your family and friend who was able to make the trip?
So my whole family came. So mom, grandma, two little sisters,
that's awesome.
brother, girlfriend, and then my stepdad and Coach Sean.
Lauren is 21 and from Queens, New York. She said growing up, fencing wasn't really a known thing or common for people to do in her neighborhood.
Even at my school, they were like, what? What is why are you fencing? So definitely not a very common sport.
I talked to Lauren about what her silver medal means for her personally, and since she is a Black gay woman, not exactly a demographic that's highly represented in the top levels of fencing, what it means for her sport at large, too. So you were born and raised in Queens to Jamaican immigrants.
Yeah.
I know you started from a very young age. Your brother also a very accomplished fencer, but tell me a little bit about your family's involvement.
Yeah.
Fencing history in the family?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think fencing was a way for us just to keep us occupied and kind of away from our neighborhood. I grew up in Queens, but I would say a lot of my childhood was spent on the train or at practice, which I think was obviously, hard as being a kid. I didn't really go on too many play dates and do many activities with friends, but so a lot of my time was spent fencing.
Wait, you're a city kid.
Yeah.
I think of you go play basketball or you do something else.
Yeah,
whatever.
My brother. He was just super into Star Wars when it came out and was super into the lightsabers and sword fighting and all that. So He asked my mom if he could do that, and she luckily saw an ad for a local fencing club and, decided to enroll him in the class.
Was he good right away also?
No. So when he picked up fencing, went to his first few tournaments, I remember my mom tells the story a lot, but he lost and he was like, I hate this sport. Like, I want to quit. The thing is, fencing equipment is super expensive. So unlike soccer, it's not as easy to quit once you drop $500 on something. So she said, no, you're going to stay in this. I already invested a lot of money in it. And he was forced to basically stay with fencing. She's older, so I would be in the stroller when he was at the tournaments. He would lose, and I'd be like, when I start fencing, I'm going to be so much better than you, Nolan. So yeah, I guess when I was in the stroller, I think it was just pure, me being competitive with my brother. I was like, I'm going to fence. So I started fencing, and I was just pretty good at it. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
And the same thing happens with my, little sisters, my little sister Gracie.
Do they fence?
Yeah, they're both fencing. She's 7, and actually before the tournament, my sister was like, I only like gold, Lauren. So
just
she
by
wasn't
the way,
impressed.
so you
she
know.
wasn't impressed with silver the first day.
No one will cut
gave
you
me
like
some
a 7-year-old.
fuel for the next tournament.
Okay, thank you, Gracie. Very good. What was it about fencing that stuck with you? Did you do a bunch of different activities when you were a kid, and this was one that took?
I think I was always pretty athletic, so I was always super into sports. I think fencing just something just clicked between me and the sport. From a young age, I was always able to pick up technical skills pretty well in sports. So similar to tennis or lacrosse, just doing those motions. And then I liked how it was kind of a very personal sport. It's just you and your opponent, one-on-one. I mean, this might sound a little vulgar, but beating someone. I don't like boxing. I don't like punching someone, but fencing is kind of the light version of that, where you're fighting someone really. So it's very satisfying in that respect.
Something that also captured me about fencing was how dramatic of a sport it is. You guys are ripping your masks off and screaming, and there's so much of that does make sense to me from one hand, because it is such a gladiator sport. It's one-on-one. I can't imagine how much adrenaline you have running through you, but I mean, you guys scream more than any athletes I've ever heard, I think. Why is that?
I mean, the big reason I think is because we have a referee, and so sometimes fencing can be a little subjective. And so when you yell, you're kind of telling the referee, that's mine. Give me that point.
Okay, yeah.
Another thing is that you just kind of assert your dominance over the other person. So, if you're fencing someone, you're getting destroyed by your opponent, they're just yelling and yelling and yelling. It really just tears you down emotionally. So it's, that. And then also just, I think it helps us get pumped up. Obviously, you spoke about adrenaline. It gives you that extra push to keep fighting.
I love it. It makes for great pictures, great atmosphere. Okay, so I did want to talk to you about your historic achievement, obviously. What does the medal mean to you? And I also want to ask kind of how you're processing that it might mean a lot to other people, too.
So I think on one hand, I think for me, it just is a testament to all the hard work I've put in throughout the years and, all the struggles I've had with fencing and just a dedication. And then on the other hand, it's nice to see I was able to be myself wholly on the Olympic stage. And, for others, I think seeing that is really important in terms of just, making them feel like they have a place in the sport.
What do you mean be yourself?
Black, gay. I think I always just try to be my authentic self when I fence. So I think in terms of, that area, it shows to other people who kind of relate to me or my community, we can have a place in the sport.
Tell me if we could kind of back up and contextualize things. Most people are not thinking of fencing as the most diverse sport in the world. Yeah. Did you grow up with other fencers of color, other fencers who were queer or anything like that? What was the world like when you were coming up?
Yeah, so definitely not until maybe high school. I was starting to be around people who looked like me when I was fencing. So basically a majority of my fencing career has just been kind of me and a lot of white people at the fencing tournaments. And then in terms of gay fencers or queer fencers, definitely not really something that was talked about or emphasized in fencing. It basically didn't really exist. Fencing's quite conservative at times. So yeah, I wouldn't say I saw a lot of people like me or who had the same experiences as me fencing and growing up fencing. It wasn't until maybe I joined the Peter Westbrook Foundation that at least I saw and was around more black fencers, which is great.
And that's Peter Westbrook. So he was the first black American man to win a medal in fencing. And he, like you said, runs a wonderful organization. You still go back and volunteer there. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually just talking to Peter yesterday. And
nice.
He congratulated me. He has a big party planned out, everything.
Okay, good. Last one I had for you. I know it's tough to ask you guys to look forward after you've just had the biggest moment of your life. Where do you feel like U.S. fencing, U.S. women's fencing in particular, do you see it becoming more diverse? Are there people coming up behind you that we should know about? Like, how is the program growing and changing, if it is growing and changing at all?
Yeah, so I actually am seeing a lot more diverse people fencing. Like at Fencers Club, majority of this class is just little kids, and within that class, definitely is a lot more diverse than kind of the standard class when I was, their age, like 10, 12. I think U.S. fencing is getting a lot more diverse. I think we have a lot more initiatives to expose fencing to different types of people in terms of like supporting them financially. So I have hopes that like fencing will become a little more mainstream and more diverse, and would love to help with that initiative in any way I can.
Cool. That would be awesome, because I'm trying to see more fencing now. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Lauren. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
That was Lauren Scruggs, a 2-time Olympic medalist in fencing. Before we go, here are a couple of events worth checking out today. Just to note, all these times are in Eastern Time, as usual. In men's volleyball, the United States plays Poland in the semifinals Wednesday at 10 a.m. In track and field, medals are being awarded in a session that begins at 12:15 p.m. And in women's basketball, the United States plays Nigeria in the quarterfinals at 3:30 p.m. That's it for today on The Sports Moment. If you want more up-to-date information about the latest news from Paris, you should also subscribe to my newsletter, which is also called The Sports Moment. You can find a link to that newsletter in our show notes. Today's episode was produced and mixed by Ted Muldoon. It was edited by Joe Tone. I'm Ava Wallace. Until next time from Paris.
At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in store, online today. Ashley, for the love of home.